In this episode of Urban U, you'll meet the seated nurse who not only served on the front lines of the COVID pandemic, but has starred in an Apple commercial and recently has started her own foundation. We'll introduce you to students who weren't deterred by the pandemic either, in serving as interns for the Natural Areas Conservancy in New York City. We'll share an inspiring story from a graduate of the Grove School of Engineering at City College, the only public school of engineering in New York that made it on the most recent list of best colleges by the U.S. News and World Report. Also, what happens when the whole world shuts down and full-time students lose their work? Sometimes, help comes from an outside source. And finally, Queens College and its new president, with a unique and inspirational backstory. Welcome to Urban U.
Working the front lines was something that was extremely hard. It was hard to see death at the capacity that I was seeing it at. It was hard to be an advocate and be emotionally there for every single patient when you're witnessing so much devastation at any given point in time. My name is Andrea Dalzell, and I am known as the seated nurse. I'm a registered nurse here in New York City. I also realized that during COVID, people with disabilities were not going to be heard in a hospital setting. There was no way. They don't have their advocates with them. They don't have their family with them. They were going to be cut off from the outside world, and it was going to be the nurse's responsibility to get them connected and be their biggest advocates. When I was younger and I had first got diagnosed with transverse myelitis, I was thrown into a world of having to see doctors and nurses and rehab hospitals. I was everywhere. My parents are immigrants. They come from South America, and they know what it is to work hard and have setbacks and not understand which way to go. And my parents were my examples growing up. I had a huge need to fit in and to be normal. And what I wanted was to be accepted. You know, we label people, and when we label them, we put them into a box. I was not going to be put into a box, and I wanted to be seen as someone who operates just like everyone else. I'm just sitting down. See me first, and then see the disability. When we say the word disabled in society, we automatically think of a broken down car. We think of something that's not moving. We think of something that is less than. And when you are trying to term that to someone who has a physical disability, it doesn't work because we all are different. People who have different challenges are faced with different things. The physical demands of nursing were never intimidating. However, I was never allowed to just be a student. I had to think about my disability all the time. I took up boxing to meet the CPR requirements because I needed the stamina and I needed the strength to keep going from the seated position. Apple reached out to me a while ago, and they saw me wearing the watch. I was using it to track my heart rate at the time and asked me to use it with my workouts. And I had told them I already did. I was already doing that. So then the commercial came about, and it was a thrill to be a part of that. And so about a month ago, Good Morning America and the Craig H. Nielsen Foundation awarded me a prize. It was the Visionary Award.
Because the Craig H. Nielsen Foundation is awarding you, gifting you a $1 million prize.
To be recognized in that light was huge, but then to even get that award was like, wait a minute, me? You're giving me what? For what reason? And I used to ask why me with my disability, and I realized that there's a purpose there. So why me now is trying to find its purpose. I've been talking with those at Johns Hopkins to create the modeled diverse and inclusive nursing program and what that looks like to obtain students and what it looks like for students with disabilities to be in healthcare and hopefully create programs that will be beneficial to not only them, but to society. I've been a patient since I was 5 years old. I'm 33 now. I've had 33 surgeries. It was my nurses that calmed me down when my anxiety was through the roof. It was the nurses that really showed that care and compassion and let me know that things were going to be okay. Every day I get messages on my social media from nurses who have been turned away from programs because they've acquired a disability. So for me to get through a program completely with my disability as a first, yes, that's huge. But I can't be the only one, and I shouldn't be the only one.
Hello, I'm Taji Sanders. I am currently a junior at Baruch. Currently, I'm serving as your Vice President of Academic Affairs for the Undergraduate Student Government. I know it's very, very hard for a lot of us because of the COVID-19 and because of also going onto the online format. But believe me, I feel you, I understand you. I myself has been struggling, and it took me a lot of systems to figure out how to best manage my time. I'm still working on it. I watch a bunch of YouTubers on productivity and things of that nature. I've been transitioning everything to Google and Notion, and I'm really just trying to remain organized and just remember to have time for work and have time for me just to chill and have fun, because we don't want that the stress of life to be weighing us down. I guess one of my greatest goals is actually to kind of work with the faculty to bring new programs and ideas to the Baruch students. And then others, I have more personal goals, like I want to learn about investing and things of that nature. So definitely, I would say everyone, hope you have goals that you want to commit to, and definitely go for them. I'm just really happy to be part of the Baruch community. There's definitely challenges and things of that nature, but I know that we'll get through it. It's tough, it's hard. Honestly, it's one of those things where you kind of just got to grit your teeth and just go through it. But as a community, we'll get through it. So here's to the best, hard work, dedication. Here's to, I guess, the rest of 2020 being lit, and just to a great 2021.
The Natural Areas Conservancy is a nonprofit organization. We work closely with the New York City Department of Parks and Recreation, and our goal is to restore and protect forests, wetlands, and grasslands. The CUNY internship program started in 2016, and it started as a field course at Brooklyn College. In April, when we made the decision to hold the remote internship, we talked to our partners at New York City Parks and asked them, basically for their ideas. We have all of this rapid site assessment data from 2018 and 2019, and they really wanted us to look at planted forests specifically.
Our main project was to create tear sheets that the New York City Parks Department could look at and get a quick idea of ecological conditions and vegetation health at a particular site.
We started off with images from 1924, 1951, 1996, 2008, and 2018. And we really took a close look at what the land was being used for and what was on the land in each of those years. So you might see what was a baseball field in 1924 become an open grassland in 1951, and then become a forest in 1996. After that, we transitioned into interpreting data from our rapid site analysis.
We were noting the species breakdown, so how many species were invasive versus native, and also just showing which species were occupying the different layers.
With the information that the interns provided, land managers at the New York City Parks Department could look at which invasive species are on site and determine which ones they'll need to remove.
Midway through the internship, the Natural Areas Conservancy published with the New York Times an article about New Yorkers and their relationship with parks during the pandemic. So we wanted to support that research, and for 2 days, I was able to go out into the field and participate in a social assessment with the U.S. Forest Service.
Ji-Sun and I went up to Van Cortlandt Park and started asking people, what are your feelings about this park? What has COVID meant for you and your park use?
About 60% of the respondents said that their use of the park had increased since the stay-at-home orders started in March. So from these results, we can see that parks in New York City are experiencing more use, but we're also seeing budget cuts to funding to maintain those parks.
I'd say the biggest challenge from working remotely is honestly the screen fatigue. We were on the computer from 9 to 5 every day with an hour lunch break in between. My team, we did make time to go outside each day, which I was really grateful for, but I definitely got very tired. Aside from that, I think working online, there was the benefit of learning a lot of computer applications about how to analyze data to support a larger project that I wouldn't have gotten if I was just working out in the field, because out in the field, we would have been collecting data rather than looking at the data and analyzing it.
I think at first, I was very disappointed. Like we all, as Jessica said, we mourned the loss of our field season. It was something that we didn't get to do, but instead we did still learn a lot, and I think we did still create something valuable.
It's always about bragging rights.
Interim Dean Alex Cousis is proud that the Grove School of Engineering at City College was recently named to U.S. News and World Report's top engineering schools for 2021. It's the only public engineering school in New York City.
It's imperative that we compete, especially with the local schools, Rutgers, NJIT, Columbia, NYU, Manhattan College, for a pool of students.
The Grove School offers undergrad, grad, and PhD programs and has departments in biomedical, civil, chemical, mechanical, and electrical engineering, as well as computer science. But what sets the school apart from its local competitors is tuition and return on investment.
There is no comparison on the return on the investment. If you're an in-state student, you're looking at something in the vicinity of about, after all the fees and all the costs, maybe $7,000 a year. I see no reason that students have to go into debt to get a high quality education.
But often the foundation for a career in engineering starts in high school with a quality education in STEM topics. STEM stands for science, technology, engineering, and math. And for those students who have difficulty at the high school level, Grove can help bring their skills up to par if they're passionate about engineering.
City College and the School of Engineering have summer programs and have winter programs that for students that want to become engineers, they can come in and say, I want to improve my math skills. I want to improve my physics skills. And we will find ways to do that through either short courses or through boot camps or whatever needs to be done. Then all of a sudden, you see a mathematical problem as it applies to an engineering system, and it all clicks.
And one student for whom it clicked in a very big way is Dr. Juan Duque. He came to the United States from Colombia in the mid-90s.
When I came to the United States, I had no knowledge of the English language. And so I went through high school. I did a couple of years of high school. And then I started college.
He planned to follow family members into the NYPD, but Grove put him on a different path.
He was a smart student, so he came into engineering. He was struggling with financials.
I had 2 jobs back then. I was working at a supermarket Monday through Fridays, and then on the weekends, I was doing security guard at one of the high-rise buildings in Manhattan.
Juan received a grant from the Grove School's foundation, graduated, and went on to Rice University to get his PhD in material science.
So I went from most likely being a police officer to now being a scientist.
And now he is a senior scientist at Los Alamos.
Wow.
And there's stories like these every day, every semester at CCNY.
As a kid coming here from Colombia, did you ever think that any of this might be possible?
No, Never. When I came here, I came with, wow, I'm going to the United States and the possibilities are endless, but I never knew that these type of possibilities existed.
Not only is your story the poster child for CUNY, but you are the American dream.
The American dream is a possibility for anybody. It only happens here, but it only happens if you make it happen, if you work hard.
I'm Andrew Falzone for Urban U.
It's been a common story during the coronavirus shutdown: lost jobs, lost income. And for a lot of college students, that impact has been as hard as anywhere.
Well, in Brooklyn College, I am right now a peer mentor in a program called BC Bound. Unlike other peer mentors, I do get paid. It's kind of like minimum wage, and it's not a lot of hours, but it is something. But since we are no longer on campus, that kind of took that away. There were also kind of side gigs, helping out with babysitting and stuff like that, which that doesn't happen because everybody's at home, so nobody needs a babysitter.
Aharon Grama is a student at Brooklyn College and member of the student government. When the shutdown came, like many, he was left to muddle through financially as best he could. But through his Brooklyn College Hillel, a nonprofit center for Jewish life on college campuses, Aharon was able to get an unexpected boost.
And when the pandemic hit, we knew that we needed to mobilize incredibly quickly. And so we put a ton of time and energy into thinking about how do we care for specific needs of New Yorkers. And so we spoke with our colleagues at the local Hillels on CUNYs, and we said, what are you hearing from your students? And we heard a variety of things. We heard students were in need of technology because they were used to going to the library to study and using the computers there. We heard that students were in need of food. We heard that students were in need of bridge funding in order to carry rent for a couple weeks. And so all of those sorts of things came to the surface.
This is Andrea Fleischhacker of the UJA Federation of New York, a massive nonprofit that supports everything from care for the elderly to food pantries to mental health services in New York and around the world. It's Jewish-focused, but much as Aharon's Hillel, aims to help the broader needs of the community as well, not just Jewish causes. And it's Andrea's job, along with her colleagues, to decide where funding goes. $45 million of which this year just for coronavirus relief.
Yeah, so we have been able to allocate just over $400,000 to the CUNY project. And when we thought about it, we said the best way to serve CUNY students in this moment was to provide cash grants so that they could be empowered to decide how to use those dollars to really meet the needs of themselves and their family. And so that's really how this all came about.
Administering the grants through the Hebrew Free Loan Society, the UJA Federation was able to get funds to students who would benefit the most through a need-based application from the various campus Hillels. They were also in touch with the CUNY Chancellor's Office, which of course has been delivering assistance as well, to make sure that the widest number of students got aid, as all students, Jewish and non-Jewish, were able to apply. And the UJA fund had enough that every eligible student who applied has received aid. Students like Aharon.
I'm used to living on a budget, and I try to monitor it. I didn't expect these little expenses that usually wouldn't pop up. Like, for example, having a webcam, it's kind of essential for studying online. While on my desktop, I didn't have a webcam and I didn't need it, to be honest. And suddenly you have that expense, which you need to afford it from somewhere. So that actually really helped with that.
It's been a common story during the coronavirus shutdown. Lost jobs, lost income. But communities pulling together to take care of each other. Well, in hard times, you can find a lot of those stories too.
I do think the program is extremely important. And The reason for that is because students at the beginning, they don't really have a lot to start on. And from my experience, okay, living on a budget, on a very small budget, can be extremely stressful.
You know, that's part of the empowerment. You know, we're not looking to embarrass anybody. We're not looking to, you know, shame anyone, but really looking to find a way to help students, let them know that that UJA stands behind them, and really find a way to help them be successful in this really challenging time.
Organizations pulling together to help the students of our city. For Urban U, I'm Ari Goldberg.
Hi, everybody on stage at Kingsborough. I have to tell you, this is one of my favorite theaters. I love this theater. I love everyone who works at this theater. I love the backstage crew. I love the front of house people. And I have to say, I miss you. But I know this isn't going to be forever, and I promise you, I will be back on your stage. So please take care of yourselves. Please stay safe. Please stay healthy. And thank you so much for having one of the greatest theaters that I have ever been able to perform in. I miss you all, and I will be back soon.
If you had said to me when I first got started that someday someone like me might be running a place like Queens College, I would have laughed because there wasn't anybody like me in a job like that.
Frank H. Wu, the American-born son of Chinese immigrants, is the first Asian-American president of Queens College, a diverse campus in Flushing, New York, represented by over 80 languages.
Bienvenue na Queens College.
欢迎来到皇后学院。
Добро пожаловать в Queens College.
The borough of Queens is the most diverse place on the face of the planet. That's what higher education is about. It's about providing access, bringing people together. And when I walk across campus, it's beautiful.
Frank Wu is all about bringing people together and breaking barriers. He was the first Asian American to teach at the Law School of Historically Black Howard University. He also spent a decade on the board of Gallaudet University, which offers higher education to deaf and hearing impaired students.
You mentioned that you were not looking for a job as a college president, but specifically Queens College.
I didn't want just to head any college, just to be in charge. I wanted to be someplace that's actually lifting people up. The first generation to go to college among all their cousins. So many of our students have that story. So many of our alumni. That was my parents' story too. They came as immigrants to this nation more than 50 years ago. But my parents came here as scholarship students. I wouldn't exist if it weren't for American higher education.
Growing up in Detroit, Wu endured his share of racist comments.
The teasing and taunting of the playground, being complimented, "My, you speak English so well," or being shouted at, "Go back to where you came from." Well, you know, at Queens College, everyone belongs. And so I do feel a responsibility. I think of my parents mocked for their accents, and I see in them the parents and grandparents of our students.
What are your plans as of now for the spring semester?
Well, we say that we're open and have been open. We've stayed open. We're just online. The choice isn't in person versus online. It's online versus not doing it at all, right?
President Wu says if it becomes possible to open up for in-person classes toward the end of next semester, it will be guided by science and safety.
What's happening currently with the on-campus dormitory? Is it occupied?
The Summit Residence Hall is open. It's about 20% occupied. And most of the occupants are, well, it's a group that I'm so proud that they get to call Queens College their home. Foster children. They've aged out. So they're actually adults now. and attending either Queens College or another CUNY school. I'll tell you what, Queens College is at the center of the community. We're more than a school. We're a civic institution. We are where culture happens. We're a major economic force, and that's so needed as we look at this recovery. It's going to be months, years. I say that as an optimist. We need to double down on the institutions that will lead.
Queens College, what doesn't it have?
As a party school, we don't rank that high. And that's just fine with me.
Yeah.
This is a place for people to realize their aspirations. They'll have some fun, but if you're looking for a place to play beer pong, this isn't it.
Frank Wu, president of Queens College, thank you so much. And you're watching Urban U.
Thanks for watching. And don't forget to check our social media pages and to share these stories from the nation's largest urban university, the City University of New York.